Hello, in this video, we are going to be talking about stem cells and how they differentiate. So why do I have a picture of Pokemon here? Well, kind of like the concept of Eevee, which is a Pokemon that can become multiple different types of Pokemon when it evolves. Stem cells are basically the same thing. They are a cell that has not yet fully evolved into its final form, and these stem cells can become different types of cells. So a stem cell, like I said, can become any type of cell. So let's just focus on the human body, but this is also true for other types of animals. And so the most, I guess, unevolutionary or unevolved version of a stem cell, so the most, I guess, basic type of stem cell is called the totipotent embryonic stem cell. So these are found in embryos, as the name suggests, and totipotent means that they can become absolutely any cell in the human body. Okay, so this is the first evolution, if you will. It's the EV of cells. And so it can differentiate. Now, when a totipotent embryonic stem cell differentiates, it's going to go into its next evolution. And this evolution is called a pluripotent stem cell. And these pluripotent stem cells belong to the three different germ lines that we learned about in a different video. And remember, the germ lines are the endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm, which will ultimately become different organs. So if you are a totipotent stem cell that has become an endoderm pluripotent stem cell, that means that you have now, kind of committed to being one of the endoderm types of cells. So remember that the endoderm becomes things like the lungs or the pancreas, things of the digestive system. And so that means that an endoderm pluripotent stem cell could not then suddenly become a skin cell because that's for the ectoderms. And so you've kind of slowly differentiated. And so that is what the pluripotent stem cells are. And again, these are all in the embryo. Now, a pluripotent stem cell can differentiate or evolve one more time to become multipotent stem cells. Okay, and these multipotent stem cells are found in adults, and can be found in adults. Of course, they're found everywhere in children as well, developing fetuses, but basically some people call them adult stem cells because of the fact that they still exist in adults. But anyway, these multipotent stem cells are found in different locations in the body, and they have quote unquote evolved. And when I'm using evolve, I'm talking about it in terms of Pokemon here. So these multipotent stem cells have now differentiated and they're getting closer to their final form. And so in this case, these cells are going to ultimately become the lungs or the pancreas. These cells in the middle ultimately become part of the heart or the blood. And then finally, here, these are the ectoderm lines. They're going to become the skin or the neurons. So these are what we call multipotent stem cells. And so they are just getting closer to their final form. And these multipotent stem cells, like I said, they can differentiate into various different types of cells in the human body. And so let's talk more about these multipotent stem cells. I'll just give a few examples. So there are neural multipotent stem cells. And guess what? Based on the name, they are going to have to do with the nervous system. So if these are neural multipotent stem cells, sorry, that's really hard to say, then they must be in the ectoderm line, right? So they must have originated from a totipotent stem cell that became an ectoderm pluripotent stem cell that then became right here the neural multipotent stem cell. And so these stem cells can differentiate to become a neuron or a glial cell. Both of these are found in the nervous system, or they can become more neural precursors, which is basically just another word for more stem cells. So a stem cell can actually make more stem cells as well. So yeah, it can evolve to its final form, or it can make more stem cells. Now, how does this work, by the way? How do they differentiate? There's lots of signaling going on in the human body. So as an embryo is developing, or just in general, when you're living life, there's lots of cell communication going on. And in that cell communication, if one cell is communicating with another, or there's hormones or whatever, there's different types of signals going on. These signals are going to turn on or off certain genes. And there are genes called pro-neural genes. And guess what? If those are turned on in a neural stem cell, then that neural stem cell is going to differentiate into a neuron. There are also proglial genes. And again, as the name suggests, if these genes are turned on, then that cell ends up being a glial cell. And so it's all about turning genes on or off, which again has to do with cell communication as well as gene regulation. Another example that I want to talk about for stem cells is the multipotent hematopoietic stem cells. That is also a very long name. And so these are going to become the cells of your blood. And so going back one more time here, if we're talking about cells that are going to end up in your blood, then they must have gone through the mesoderm kind of route. So they were a totipotent embryonic stem cell that then became a mesoderm pluripotent stem cell, which then became these cells right here. And so we call them multipotent hematopoietic stem cells. And as I already mentioned, they can become any type of blood cell. And again, how does this happen? Primarily through cell communication, which again turns genes on or off. So this could be hormones or anything like that. So I'll give you one example. Erythrocytes, which are red blood cells. To produce an erythrocyte, you need the hormone erythropoietin, which your body produces. This hormone will go to these multipotent stem cells, which, by the way, are found in the bone marrow. And they're going to turn on genes that would promote the stem cell to go into the common myeloid progenitor cell, which then eventually becomes the erythrocyte. And so these genes are being triggered so that the cell goes through this specific type of differentiation. And again, these are just a couple of examples, but there are many different types of stem cells in the body that differentiate to become all of the different types of cells in the human body. And again, this video is primarily focusing on human stem cells, but this is pretty much how it works for all animals and even plants. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video.